The moment a man tried to intimidate a woman at the gym, he had no clue who he was dealing with. What happened next left everyone in the room speechless. The Midtown Fitness Center in Phoenix was buzzing with the usual after-work crowd. The sound of machines clanking, sneakers squeaking on the rubber floor, and faint music in the background filled the air. Among the gym-goers was Kendra, a confident and focused 34-year-old woman. Her workout routine was spot on: deadlifts, burpees, and pull-ups, and she never drew attention to herself. Today was just like any other. Kendra wore her usual simple black leggings and tank top, earbuds in, signaling she wasn't interested in chatting. As she adjusted the weights on the squat rack, a man approached her. He stood there, uninvited, like a storm cloud ready to break. He looked to be in his mid-40s, broad-shouldered, and someone who clearly spent a lot of time at the gym. But there was something off about him. When she noticed him, his smirk made Kendra instinctively straighten her posture. The man was clearly insecure, desperate to feel in control of any space he walked into. But Kendra wasn't intimidated. Years of training had taught her how to stay calm under pressure. Still, she could feel the tension building. As she reached for her water bottle, the man followed her, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, jaw clenched in frustration. "Hey," he barked, "I'm talking to you." Kendra paused for a moment, her grip tightening on the bottle, but she didn't look his way. Instead, she took a slow sip, screwed the cap back on, and carried on with her movements, deliberate and calm. The room seemed to hold its breath, but Kendra knew better than to make things worse. "Look," he continued, his voice dripping with condescension, "you don't have to act tough. If you're struggling, just say so and I'll help." Kendra turned to face him now, her voice steady and cold. "Struggling? The only thing I'm struggling with is your refusal to leave me alone." A few gym goers glanced over, sensing a change in her tone. Some stopped their workouts completely, their faces questioning the moment. Would he back off? Would she let it go? The man laughed, but it was sharp and humorless. "You think you're better than me?" he snapped, stepping closer. "What makes you so special?" Kendra's eyes narrowed, but her voice remained calm. "Nothing makes me special, but I know how to handle myself." His face darkened, and he stepped even closer, his voice lowering into a threatening tone. "You better watch your mouth." The tension in the room was thick now, and people weren't pretending not to notice. A young man on the treadmill hesitated, looking between Kendra and the man, unsure whether to step in. But Kendra met his gaze and gave the slightest shake of her head. She didn't need anyone intervening. Not yet. The man wasn't just angry. He was losing control, and everyone could feel the dangerous shift in the air. His anger boiled over, fists clenched at his sides as he moved even closer, now invading Kendra's personal space. She didn't flinch. Instead, she stood tall, her eyes locked on his, calm, unshaken. It wasn't defiance, it was control, sending a clear message that she wasn't afraid. "You've got a smart mouth, don't you?" he spat, his voice echoing through the gym. The room tensed, a few gym employees whispering behind the counter, unsure whether to intervene. Others stood frozen, caught in the awkward moment of wanting to help but not knowing how. Kendra took a slow breath, exhaling calmly. "You need to calm down," she said firmly, her voice full of authority, not anger. But her words only seemed to fuel his rage even more. He grabbed her arm roughly and gasps rippled through the gym. Kendra stood still for a moment, calculating the situation. "What are you going to do about it?" he sneered, his grip tightening. And that's when everything changed. Kendra moved with such speed that the man didn't even realize what was happening. Her free hand shot up, grabbing his wrist in an unbreakable grip. Kendra twisted his arm, forcing him to release her. The sudden shift in power left him stunned, his face contorting with a mix of shock and pain. She stepped back, putting herself just out of reach, but completely in control. "Let me make one thing clear," she said, her voice steady and sharp, cutting through the stunned silence in the gym. "You don't put your hands on me. Ever." The man stumbled back, clutching his wrist, his bravado crumbling. But instead of backing down, he let out a frustrated roar and lunged at her. This time, Kendra didn't hesitate. She effortlessly sidestepped his clumsy attack, using his momentum against him. In one smooth move, she swept his legs out from under him, sending him crashing to the mat with a loud thud. The gym erupted in chaos. Some people shouted, others scrambled to move out of the way, and a few pulled out their phones, eager to record the scene. The man groaned, dazed and humiliated, while Kendra stood over him, her stance solid and unwavering. "You really don't know when to quit," she said, her voice low enough for only him to hear. For a moment it seemed like he might try again, but the look in her eyes stopped him cold. She wasn't just confident, she was trained, dangerous. The realization hit him too late, but the fear in his eyes said it all. The damage had been done, and the entire gym had witnessed not only his aggression, but his humiliating defeat at the hands of someone he had severely underestimated. The gym buzzed with whispers and the sound of recording phones. Kendra stood tall, her breathing steady as she scanned the room. Her body language was calm but commanding, as if daring anyone else to step out of line. The man, still sprawled on the mat, scrambled to his feet, his face a mix of anger, shame, and confusion. "You're crazy," he shouted, pointing at her like a trapped animal. "You think you can just—" Kendra cut him off, her tone sharp enough to slice through his words. "You've embarrassed yourself enough for one day. Leave." A gym employee, a young woman with wide eyes and trembling hands, stepped forward. "Sir," she said, her voice shaking, "you need to go now." The man's jaw tightened, and for a moment it looked like he might resist. But the weight of the stares from everyone around him, some angry, some disgusted, seemed to sink in. His shoulders slumped as he backed away, muttering something under his breath. He grabbed his bag from a nearby bench and stormed out, shoving the glass door open so hard it rattled. As the door closed behind him, the room seemed to collectively exhale. Someone clapped, then another joined in, and soon a small wave of applause rippled through the crowd. Kendra raised a hand, signaling for silence. "It's over," she said simply. The crowd began to disperse, some returning to their workouts, others still whispering and glancing her way. A young man approached her cautiously, his phone still in hand. "That was incredible," he said, his voice full of awe. "Are you some kind of martial artist or something?" Kendra gave him a small smile, her eyes still serious. "Something like that," she replied, offering no more details. Another gym-goer, a middle-aged woman, stepped forward. "Are you okay?" That was terrifying to watch. "I'm fine," Kendra replied, her tone calm but firm. The young woman who worked at the counter appeared again, nervously wringing her hands. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice shaky. "I should have stepped in sooner. I just didn't know." Kendra interrupted her, her expression softening. "You did what you could." The employee nodded, still uneasy. "We should call the police, though. He might come back." Kendra thought about it for a moment before replying. "No need," she said, her voice confident. "He's not coming back. Trust me." Her certainty left no room for doubt. Kendra turned and walked toward the locker room to grab her things. But as she walked away, the murmurs continued, and the weight of what had just happened hung in the air, leaving everyone to process it in their own way. Inside the locker room, Kendra moved with purpose. As she reached for her gym bag, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. Her face was calm and composed, with no hint of triumph or gloating. This wasn't about proving anything. It was about making a point. Respect isn't optional. She packed her things in silence, letting the adrenaline fade. Just as she zipped up her bag, the young woman from the front desk, Tara, cautiously entered. Her name tag was visible, and she lingered near the doorway, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "Can I ask you something?" Tara finally spoke. Kendra turned, her gaze steady but kind. "Sure." Tara hesitated before blurting out, "How did you stay so calm? I mean, he was so aggressive, and you just handled it like, how?" Kendra leaned against the bench, folding her arms. "It's not about staying calm," she said. "It's about knowing you can handle yourself. Fear loses its grip when you're prepared." Tara tilted her head, clearly curious. "So you're trained, like military or something?" Kendra gave a small nod. "I served as a Navy SEAL for over a decade. I've faced worse situations than what happened out there." Tara's eyes widened. "Wow, that explains a lot. But it's not just about training." Kendra's tone became more serious. "It's about knowing when to act and when to let things go." He wasn't just angry. He was insecure. People like that look for easy targets. When you show them you're not one, they don't know how to react. Tara nodded slowly, processing Kendra's words. "I wish I could be that brave." "You can," Kendra said simply. "Bravery isn't about not being scared. It's about standing firm when it matters." As Tara absorbed the advice, the locker room door creaked open. The middle-aged woman who had checked on Kendra earlier peeked in. "Sorry to interrupt," she said softly. "I just wanted to say thank you. You handled that with so much grace. Honestly, it made me think about how often I let people walk all over me." Kendra offered a faint smile. "Standing up for yourself isn't always easy, but it's necessary. Not just for you, but for everyone watching." The woman nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You're right. I think I needed to see that." Kendra slung her bag over her shoulder. "We all need reminders sometimes." As she stepped out of the locker room and into the cool evening air, Kendra felt a quiet sense of resolve. She hadn't planned for any of this to happen, but she knew it had made a difference. But maybe that's how it was meant to be. Maybe someone in that gym needed to see what true strength looked like, not just in physical power, but in composure, in resilience, in refusing to let ignorance win. Yet even as she walked to her car, Kendra knew this story wasn't only about her. It was about everyone in that gym, those who would leave with a fresh perspective, a lesson about respect, courage, and the dangers of underestimating someone based on assumptions. The gym slowly emptied that evening, but the event stayed fresh in everyone's minds. Conversations rippled through the regulars, some replaying the scene they had witnessed, others questioning their own reactions. Why had they hesitated? What would they have done differently? The confrontation sparked something deeper than just shock. It forced people to examine their assumptions and their silence. Tara, still shaken but inspired, sat at the counter after her shift, scrolling through her phone. The video someone had taken of Kendra's calm yet decisive actions had already begun circulating online, drawing comments full of admiration, disbelief, and even introspection. She handled it like a pro. This is what strength looks like. Why did no one step in sooner? The incident wasn't just about what had happened. It revealed something deeper. Too often, people underestimated others, whether due to arrogance, bias, or ignorance. Kendra had shattered those illusions with precision and grace, and in doing so, she became a symbol of quiet power. Meanwhile, Kendra sat at home sipping tea as her dog curled up at her feet. Her phone buzzed with messages from gym members, thank yous, praises for her courage, and requests for advice. She appreciated the sentiment but didn't see herself as a hero. For her, it wasn't about the spotlight. It was about standing firm in the face of injustice, no matter how big or small the stage. The following week, Kendra returned to the gym as unassuming as ever. People greeted her differently now, their respect clear in their smiles and nods. Tara approached her shyly, holding out a card. "I just wanted to say thanks." she said. "You've inspired me." At home later, Kendra opened the card. Inside was a simple message. "You reminded me that strength comes in many forms. Thank you for showing me what it means to truly stand tall." It wasn't just Tara who had learned something that day. Everyone who witnessed the confrontation, or even just heard about it, walked away with a lesson. Respect is earned, not given lightly. Strength isn't about size or bravado. It's about resolve and courage. It's the quiet act of standing firm when the world expects you to crumble. As for the man, he disappeared from the gym completely. Whether from shame or fear, no one knew, but his actions left a lasting impact, one that served as a stark reminder of what happens when ignorance meets resilience. As Kendra reflected on the incident, one thought stood out. Maybe the world didn't need more heroes. Maybe it just needed more people willing to stand their ground and demand the respect they deserved. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the power of respect, strength, and courage. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire, challenge, and leave you thinking long after the credits roll.